Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in this week. In the studio tonight, Echo on the floor, over there of course, Jackie on the couch, and Brooke.
What?
Yay. You can't see Echo, but she's down there. She's
She's
snoring
here.
away.
She's hanging out.
Yeah, she's here in spirit. Although in a moment you'll probably be able to hear her snore, I bet.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining. This has been an interesting week. It's been good. Oh, let me show you the painting from last week. I did order this one last week, didn't I?
Yep.
It's all a blur, I swear. Here, I'll put this in. This probably won't show up that well because we have it on this other. Can you see it that well, or was it better where it was?
Hold it up and just hold it up with you.
Oh, like for fancy. Yeah. So I'm not quite done with it. I'm almost done. I keep working on it. It's a large canvas, and so I think maybe I'm going to tint the horse a little bit more, and maybe the water, and the trees are a little too perfect. So I want to go in and mess with the trees a little bit more, have a little bit more fun with those. But that's where that is. I've been working on some other paintings. I usually work on a bunch of different things in the studio during the week, so that's one of them. I've got a Ramones painting going, a Joey Ramone. It's coming along. It's getting there.
Yeah.
I did a robot painting this week. What else did I work on? Oh, I've got this one. I'm not sure if I'm done with it or not. Here, I'll show you. It's of a boatman. A boatman. It's boatman. And then I'm not done with it, so I'm going to change these buildings a little bit. The windows up here, I think I did a lot of oranges and yellows, and they're probably too bright. So either I need to darken them down or I need to brighten the other windows or something. And but it's going to be a nice little scene, I hope, when I get done with it. So it's something to work on.
So we got some people joining us on the chat. We've got Marilee is joining us.
Marilee, hi. It's good to I almost said it's good to see you, but it's good to know you're in the house. I don't know. Is there a better way to say that?
Yeah, we got Wendell. Woo!
Woo!
Hey!
Oh, Wendell, we're coming in July to New Orleans.
Yes.
Is that right?
14th.
14th-ish. We're definitely coming at some point. They're around the middle of the month, but we'll let you know. June or July. It's one of those. We're coming to
one of the J months.
It's a J month.
The event we're doing, or you're doing, is June, or I think it's June 14th. So we'll be out there for.
Yeah, June sounds more right.
Yeah,
that sounds more right.
Either way, it's the 14th of one of those 2 months.
Yeah, and so we're looking forward to that. That's going to be so much fun. But we'll definitely let you know, and we're going to come out, and it's going to be working with the Lighthouse for the Blind, and it's a group of children. I was just sending a supplies list over there, and they're like. They asked, what sort of supplies do you want? And I love that because you get to order all the paint art supplies that you can think of, so you can do a wish list. And so,
yeah. Well, and speaking of New Orleans, we should contact Tony and Ray and.
Yeah.
We're gonna come out. See you again.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long we're gonna be there, but we're definitely gonna be there at least a couple of days, and hopefully more. I mean, man.
Last time we were run out by a storm.
Yeah.
We had to leave early.
Yeah, this is true. It'd be really cool if we could get in the same hotel. I don't remember the name of the hotel, but you're right there.
It was Place d'Armes.
Well, except that we're not pronouncing it right, because every time we pronounce it, somebody there that knew how to speak French would like, blah, 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 blah. We're like, oh, okay. Well,
we were like, Place d'Armes?
Yeah.
We're from that.
Yeah. Where's the Place d'Armes? That's where we live.
Yeah,
but,
pretty much.
Well, the Place d'Armes is a great hotel. Just don't pronounce it like that. Although they just laugh, so it's But you ought to come, Brooke. It's like right at the end of that little block where the hotel is it's Jefferson Square. Jackson Square. You think I would remember? It's the name of my son.
One of the J words.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, well,
famous dudes.
And the reason I don't remember is because on the other end of the street is Bourbon Street and all that. So that tends to mess with the memory and all. But
that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
It'd be awesome. It'd be a party.
Oh yeah, but you might be teaching and whatnot.
I have no summer plans this summer. It's the first summer I think ever that I don't actually have.
You should read a book or something.
That's what I do during the year.
Hey, darling. Hey, Jack, can you take that back in the other room, sweetheart?
No, more Netflix marathons.
Oh, there you go. So we also have Witzel's with us. Donna's with us.
Hey, Donna.
Right now, that's I think the only people that have chimed in that I'm seeing on the chat. But
Oh well.
If you're watching, say hi, talk to us.
Yeah, and tonight, this has sort of a theme. I thought it'd be fun to, well, let me preface this. Well, on the last show, we asked for ideas for a painting, and we're not doing that this time. But but I thought it'd be fun to do kind of a painting in 2 hours. So I probably should get started here pretty quick. Hey, Betty, can you take that out of here, please?
Hello.
Thank you, Darren.
Can I help you guys?
So, oh yeah, baby, and please come back and hang out, but just don't bring the toys, okay?
You can hear him on the thing.
Yeah, you can hear it, darling. So, thank you. I forgot what I was saying.
What we're doing now.
started
Huh?
2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours to get started. So this time I thought, like all over the place, there's these bring your own drinks, the BYOB sort of painting salons where you go in and you do you bring your friends, you hang out for 2 hours, you bring a bottle of something, and you all work on a painting. So I thought, well, it might be fun to work on a painting in that sort of vein. So, and I wanted to leave it up to you guys, like whatever you want to work on, we could work on that. I was thinking, tell me what you think of this. I mean, I don't want to dictate what we're painting, but I was thinking about maybe a tropical sort of theme. And I think maybe I'm thinking of that because we've been watching a lot of HGTV. And so those homes shows where they say, oh, let's buy a home somewhere.
Yeah.
And these people, so I just opened this can. Let's throw that away. And it's all these people, and they're looking for homes in the Caribbean. I think, oh, how cool would that be? To actually buy a house there, and you've got it there. And then,
Yeah.
you tell your friends, like, you should go visit us in the Caribbean. So that would be nice.
Jackie, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
why are we still talking about this idea? Why don't we do it? So I don't know. I was thinking about that because we could do a sort of ocean scene with the sky, and then maybe do some palm trees and something. And I was working on another painting for somebody that's commissioned something like that too this week. I just started it. I haven't really gotten into it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that sounds good. We could work on that because that's probably a painting we could knock out in a couple hours and use kind of music as an inspiration.
Whistle says tropical sounds great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's one vote. Are there any nays?
Should we put to the crowd a composition
Yeah. Well,
that you can do in 2 hours?
yeah. Well, that's the other thing. So I want to be able to do it in 2 hours. That way everybody can follow along if they want to. Or the great thing about this, all these videos that we do, they're archived on our YouTube channel and on the website. So if you think, well, I don't really want to do this tonight, but tomorrow or a week from now or a year from now, you can go back and look at it and do the entire painting. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know. I want to get started so bad.
Okay, so
Tropical, I don't know.
all we've got so far is whistles. Tropical sounds great.
Does anybody not like the idea of a tropical painting?
Can you do a hammock hanging in the palm trees?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I could. It might take.
Can you do a shark jumping out of the ocean,
A robot shark.
grabbing a squid with a sunset?
Is he wearing a cowboy hat? Because that would be awesome. I have an idea. Why don't I do the sea and the sky and the trees and all that, and then you do the shark with the cowboy hat?
Okay.
Grabbing the squid. Now I don't know.
Totally separate canvas.
Yeah.
from yours.
And we'll morph the two with the magic of filmmaking, all that. Well, if everybody, if nobody really cares, I might just get started with that.
Okay.
And then, we could always change it if people are like, no, we don't like tropical anymore.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do, I have a 16 by 20 canvas, and it's in a horizontal sort of way. So I'm just gonna take paint and I'm gonna squirt it on it. And what I'm doing most of the time when I do a painting, I do a sketch first. So I do a raised line sketch. Instead of doing that on this, what I'm gonna do is just put paint on there, and I'm gonna let this paint tell the story in a way. Like I'm gonna, the paint feels a little bit different. So most of the time when I mix in paints in these bottles, I'll mix in a little bit of the mediums if I need to. Some of the paints are different anyway, but the ones I'm using, this cerulean blue is a lot thinner than this white, which is thick. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but it's thicker than the blue. So what I'm gonna do, this is the underpainting. So I'm not saying that this part of the painting doesn't matter, but you're not going to see it that much. I mean, it's not. It's the part of the painting that you can be a little looser with. You can have some fun with, and you're just basically trying to get this painting covered a little bit. So has anybody ever done one of those BYOB painting classes? I never
I
have.
have.
Have you?
Oh.
How was that?
It was fun and we painted beer taps so it fit the theme.
Oh, really? Beer like the taps like that you pour beer with?
Uh-huh.
Really? Oh my goodness. Well, how did that turn out?
It turned out.
It happened. It was a thing.
I ended up with lots of paint all over me.
Nice. That's good.
But it was fun.
Well, that sounds cool. Have you ever Jackie? Have you ever done that?
I have not. I've just I don't know. I've thought about it. I've looked it up and you know, even looked into like, you know, getting a group of people together to do it, but that's the extent.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Although at the house we haven't done this in a long time, and we should do it soon. But we'll have art nights where we'll have friends over and we'll do arty things. And I've noticed sometimes we'll work that into a wine night too. And usually, like if we have a wine tasting night, it starts out where we're really careful. We're opening the bottle. We'll pass the cork around or something. We're reading the label, and everybody's going like, "Ooh, really? That's interesting." Then by the end of the night, it's like, "Oh, it's wet. Yeah, let's drink it." So you know,
and we'll have friends do theatrical readings of the labels, which Brooke takes the cake.
Oh
for.
yeah.
Definitely the best reader of wine labels.
Well, with my awesome Cockney voice.
Oh yeah. Oh no, Lord, I forgot about that. I was like, okay, we've had that one enough. So let's
like,
move on.
whoa.
That's
intense.
it isn't. It's funny though. Actually, you know, Brian sent that one wine with the artwork on it. We could read that. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we have a case of the wine with the.
Oh yeah. Let me go get it really fast while you keep painting.
Okay. So right now I'm just putting cerulean blue and titanium white, and I'm just doing this because I'm going to paint over it later, and but I want it to dry. So I'm putting this down, and I'm just blocking in color. Hey Brooke, do you remember that painting that you worked on for a while? It was in Queen Elizabeth.
Oh gosh, the huge one.
Yeah, that thing was enormous.
I don't even know where that canvas is anymore, and for something that big to just kind of disappear.
Yeah, you know,
Crazy.
I want to say you finally, like when you were moving once, you thought, I don't think I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Might have
Well,
got
'cause I was gonna hand cut the glass and put it on her dress and stuff as jewels.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because I had done that glass coffee table at one point,
That's right. That's cool.
and it would have been ridiculously heavy.
Yeah, it would have. It would have been cool though, man. Really cool.
I couldn't get her face right.
Faces are hard. Really. So.
So what is this that you got, Jackie?
Okay, so
It's with Artiste Winery, isn't it, in Santa Barbara?
Oh, yes.
yeah,
You mean hold it?
sure. You can put it under your thing.
Is this the top label?
Yes, which
Okay,
actually
that's the bottom
I
label?
have to fix that. That's gonna drive me crazy. The camera is upside down on your painting.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I was noticing that when you were showing the art earlier.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
well, oops.
we're gonna fix that real fast.
Oh, can you do that?
We're gonna rotate the camera really fast.
Oh, I got you. I was like, oh. Well,
So you can talk about like the process of that.
there is that more right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So this is the it's a painting that I did. The interesting thing about this winery, it's Artiste Winery, and here I'll move this way so you can mess with the camera if you want. The interesting thing about this winery though is that instead of taking like a wine that's already made and then trying to find art to match that wine, they will take the artwork and then they'll combine it. They'll make a wine. They'll design a wine that matches the artwork, which I think is kind of cool. So it's like, it's going from the art first and then working out
That's
from that.
interesting.
Yeah, it's a different sort of take, isn't it?
I love though your art labels. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. That's cool. So this will be fun, and they have 3 more that. Oh, can I get this back to you? Oh,
Yeah.
Let me show it some more.
Yeah, sure.
So is that right?
Yep. We're good.
So, one of the great things about working with a winery is that you have a lot of wine. So I'm gonna give this back to you guys.
Thanks.
You never know.
Yeah,
You may want to open it. Yeah. Thank you. And that's one of the things too. We have 3 more bottles that are 3 more types that are coming out, and I'm doing a show with them I think next month, Is that right? Going out, the show opens in the middle of May?
May 13th.
May 13th. So we'll have that wine, and if anybody's interested in the wine, we can order it for you. We can talk to Bion and get the wine for you. And I know for some of my collectors, we're going to provide the wine and have that. And it'll be fun.
It's good gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
Owen is doing a series of paintings on his trip to the Cayman Islands right now. So.
Oh, cool.
Cool. And what else do we have here? Witzel likes the color palette, and Tony asked, can we order the wine online?
I'm not, Tony, thank you for asking. Let us check. Actually, you may know, Jackie. I'm not sure.
Well, I know that.
I know that we're not licensed to sell wine.
Well, no, I
I don't know if
think.
that's a thing, or does it matter? I don't know.
Well, we are not selling the wine. No.
Oh, but we can get, we can give.
Yes.
We can
Yeah. What
connect
I'll
them
do.
to-
What I'll do is for the. I mean, I'll post the link about it.
I'm glad you know about that. I would get us in trouble so quickly. Like,
Yeah.
sure, we'll hook you up some moonshine. It's all good.
Yeah.
What?
I'll just slap a label on it.
Yeah. We started with Welch's. Yeah, it's a good thing I'm not in control of all that.
Well, last I checked, it wasn't up yet.
But very soon though, I think. Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because for the other 3 paintings, we haven't tried the wine yet because they're still developing it and also and of course I don't really want to have any I don't want to put my nose in it at all because I'm that's not my art, so it's going to be interesting to see how these people come up with that and with the idea of the flavors for the color and I'm really curious to see their art form, how they interpret of all that. So it's gonna be fun.
I'm posting a link to the Artiste Winery website that is about you, but it doesn't look like they're ready to sell the wine yet. So, but this will give the link to everybody.
Oh, that's a great idea. Well, cool. Well, so I've never been to one of those BYOB sort of art things where you go in and you paint, but we have done the wine tastings at the house and we've done art parties in art nights where we'll just do art, and we've done it where we've had people make glass art and jewelry, painting, of course, sculpture, and all kinds of things, and it's fun. But I have noticed that the more bottles of wine that are open, the more creative people get. the more people are willing. Because usually at the night, the beginning of it, there might be 3 or 4 people. They're like, nah, I don't really know how to do anything. I want to do it. And then, like 2 hours later, they're deep into something and enjoying it, which is the whole part of it. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you come up with. I mean, if you make the next Mona Lisa or whatever, no one's expecting that. That's not really what art's about, I don't think. It's about just getting involved and having some fun.
Although at one point I did make those little clay things and we put them in the oven and they all melted.
Oh.
So they look like little melted polar bears and little melted.
Kind of sad. Oh.
I don't remember what we were using, but it did not work.
Oh yeah, there was some clay that was meant to be baked and it was mixed in with some clay that wasn't. So the clay that wasn't meant to be baked all like melted and the other
yeah, that's right. I remember that
Fun
happening.
petals.
Yeah. Good times, man.
You never know what's going to happen on art night.
Yeah, really. We haven't done an art night in a long time. Or it's been a while. Everything's been kind of busy and weird, and so I mean not weird, but I mean we've just been kind of busy and not knowing what weekends we'll have free. But it's like one of those things. I guess you just got to make a priority and do it.
Yeah.
It's just been nutty the last year. I guess I don't know.
So John, how do you dictate what color you're putting where on a tropical island scene?
Well, that's a very great question. Right now, really what I'm doing is I'm putting in some water and some sky, and I'm just putting a lot of color. So I'm blocking in. And what I want to do is have sort of a V action kind of going, because I want to have the sun or the light source is going to be more in the middle. I don't usually put it in the middle, but I think for this it'll be nice. It's a BYOB painting, a tipsy bartender kind of painting type of thing, where it's it's more fun and Caribbean. So we can't really play the music live in here because YouTube will mute the channel. and that'll suck. So in my mind though, I've got this sort of Caribbean sort of tones going. So I'm just using bright colors, and what I'm doing is starting with titanium white and cerulean blue in the middle, and then working out to a lemon yellow and a medium cad, and then some just sort of hot pink on the sides, because the pink is actually going to, it's a nice Caribbean color, but it's going to merge in with the yellow and also with the purples I'm going to put in. And once this dries a little bit, I can flesh it in a little bit more. And I have this bright yellow up there, but that's okay. This is going to be muted down quite a bit. And then I'm going to have some purples and things. But I wanted that yellow because the yellow interacts with purple in an interesting sort of way. So I'm just putting all this stuff down at the first. Now, over here on the left-hand side, I'm actually going to put some land. And then I'll have some palm trees. And I'll show you how to paint palm trees. And they're a fun tree to paint. They're actually one of my favorite. And they're, I don't know, because you can have fun with them, and it's like, it's like the tree with the crazy hair. So you can go a little nutty with them. Have some fun. So I'm gonna get, this should be my purple. I have my purple in a small bottle. It's easy to find. And this should be my white. Okay. So a little titanium white, a little dioxazine purple, and I'm gonna add a little flow agent or flow release here, and this just makes it where the paint's going to feel a little bit different. It's going to blend a little better, so we'll have that. Okay, all.
So is that you just added? Is it thick? Is it thin? What is it?
Oh, it's a really good question. It's really thin. It's thin, but it makes it feel like oil, sort of. So it's more oily kind of.
Does it make
texture.
The paint take longer to dry since it's kind of oily, or is it?
It actually makes it dry a little faster, which is interesting.
Yeah, you talked about this last week, where the cool aspect of that is that you could, when it dries, you can feel like the brush strokes in it.
Yeah, well, if you take that and you mix it with a medium gloss structure gel, medium high gloss structure gel, and you mix the two together, it makes it where where when you make a brush stroke, it's like oil paint, like it's sort of a thick oil paint that leaves a bit of a texture. Hey, Echo.
So, Owen says you put in your background colors first, like the ocean and sky, and then you add the forefront, right?
Yeah, and we're right now. What I'm doing is I'm just blocking in the color. So and all this is going to be the background, but I'm going to go over it again. Now, if I have time, what I generally do is that I'll go over this quite a bit. So instead of just doing it once or twice, I'll do it 3, 5, 7, 10 times, and I'll keep adding these colors in. And I'll add the different mediums. So there's some that are a little bit thinner and some that are more opaque, but it makes it where the color acts more like water, where there's parts of water you can see in a little deeper than others, depending on the temperature of the water, the way the waves are, all that. It changes the clarity. And so right now I'm just basically trying to get it all covered up a little bit. And then we'll go back in and we'll start changing. But the idea, though, is just to get these basic sort of colors down. And I just want to put a little blue. So, and the great thing about this is that it lets you think about your painting or what you're doing. So, if you're doing it and you don't like it, like I don't really like this yellow up here, that's not a problem at all. You can actually work with it and it'll make your painting better. You just cover it up a little bit, or you can keep part of it. So, a lot of this can be covered up. A lot of it we'll keep. Some of it will partially cover up. We'll put a translucent sort of paint over it, and it'll make it better. So, I don't know if that, hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. It's a great thing about having chat.
Elizabeth Nuremberg has joined us, and she said that her and her fellow students at the Center for the Blind that she attends went to one of those art places recently, but they painted on plywood door signs instead of doing it on canvas.
Oh, cool.
So
was that fun? Did you like it, or do you wish it was canvas? It sounds interesting. Man.
That makes me wonder if if those paint and draw places, or sip and paint, whatever, if they could do other things, like have a jewelry night where you make jewelry, and
yeah,
I would imagine as long as there's wine, everybody's pretty happy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Or maybe it exists and I've never heard of it.
Yeah, or a sculpture night, or
Yeah. Well, I know that there's those places that in Denton we have a place called Time to Kiln, and it's where you can go in and do your own pottery stuff and glaze it. Have you done one of those? They're a lot of fun. And we did that on a date we went on years ago.
Yeah.
We did that, but
That was
it'd be cool to have an art place where it did more than just sip and paint, where you could actually like do art or.
Doesn't scrap do that? Like they use scrap type materials and you can create art and do that. I'm not sure.
I wonder if it's a structure to where it's
I don't
like.
think it is.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a place. Yeah, I know that they have workshops and stuff, but I don't know what else. Yeah, but it would be cool because then you're not somebody that wants to make a bracelet could do that.
pretty cool.
Like here back at summer camp.
Yeah,
Making
friendship
it-
bracelets. You know you'd want one from me.
Sure. So right now, I let this paint dry till where it's about a medium sort of consistency, and now I'm just going through and I'm just letting it blend a little bit, just making it kind of streaky. But it's at a point where it feels a little bit like pancake batter, and it just makes it where I can go in and just blend it a little bit.
Well, Elizabeth said she would have preferred canvas, but it was fun.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's gotta be hard to find doors. I mean, if you do it every class, like that studio would be going through a ton of doors.
Yeah. Well.
Maybe it was just like a one-off kind of thing. That sounds.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's easy to you can get like a box of 100 small canvases or 40 of them, and you get a box of 100 doors, and that's a much bigger.
I mean, unless that was part of the theme, that was like
that's
a
right.
rustic painting night or something crazy. I don't know.
That sounds
I'm
cool.
guessing, I have no idea.
That sounds cool.
Elizabeth said, well, it was just small door hangers.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So.
Like with like little notes on them or something.
Yeah, but yeah,
design.
Yeah, that could be cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So, Valerie joined us.
Well, hey, Valerie. Thanks for joining us. So now I'm going to add a little dioxazine purple with titanium white up here at the top. I'm just going to color it in.
So are you going to have any clouds in this, or?
Yes, but it's going to be more of an atmospheric effect. It's not going to have like, the white little puffy clouds like, you would see like in a Peanuts cartoon or something, but it will. It'll have more of an atmospheric effect, where you're seeing through. And not a big fan of this yellow up here, I don't think. I put it up there, and I should have used probably more of a lemon yellow. But here is the wonderful thing about paint.
The Denton storms were really cool looking. Those would be fun to paint.
Oh, yeah.
That we've been doing recently.
Yeah.
With all the hail and
Oh,
all
man.
that stuff.
Yeah,
The
that's
skies
true.
have been insane.
Yeah, they have been really cool. Really cool. Yeah, this, and some of you that are from here, or from the, North Texas area, we had some insane storms come through that had baseball-sized hail. It was like literally that big. I'm from Wiley. They were literally melon-sized, really.
Knocking the windows out.
Yeah, I had a friend on Facebook that showed a picture of his house after the storm, and the entire front. It's a 2-story house, and all the windows were broken. And they were really fancy big windows, but they were broken. And when we were out, Jack and I were coming back from getting ice cream with Debbie, my mother-in-law, and the storm hit while we were driving, and I have a soft top Jeep, and so we were terrified. We were terrified. So John calls me, and I'm like, we're driving now, and John's like, put something over Jack's head. So Jack put the backpack over his head, and I had my purse over my head in the car, and we're just trying to find a gas station and run out of the car and get into. And
there were pictures of people stopped under those overpasses and blocking the rest of the traffic from getting where they needed to be.
It was nuts.
Man.
I was waiting on a blind date, and the poor guy was driving to try and meet me, and I was like, "I'm sorry, you don't have to come. I'm safe and indoors." But you made it.
Yeah, the storms were nuts, but the skies were really cool. It was very dark with these white, gray, billowy, kind of weird shapes in the clouds. Yeah, at some point you looked up and you thought it was going to be a tornado, but it was just, yeah.
But it didn't have that green sky.
Yeah,
the
that's
tornado.
Yeah, weird. Yeah. It was scary though. So,
That's crazy. I know I was there and the hell was hitting the windows in the kitchen and the dining room area. And just it was hitting it so hard, it just it's like it was going to shatter any second. So I don't know what to do. So I just took the mini blinds and I just closed them. I was like, there.
because that'll protect me.
Yeah, that fixes that. So I'm going to dry this a little bit because I'm not very happy with the way the top of this painting is going. So I've got a heat gun. I figure if you don't like your painting, just torture it a bit until it complies.
What did he just do? What did he? Did Jackson just run into the wall?
So I'm going to let this dry a little bit. Now it's hot.
How long does that take to normally dry it? Is it almost instantly, or is it? Or you
It,
just?
it depends on the paint. Like if you're doing with a thick paint, like an impasto paint technique, then it's going to take a while, and it's not really going to get it dry, and it's going to burn the outside before the inside, which can be kind of cool. There's some paintings I've done where I'll do that, and especially with a resin paint, you can use a heat gun and make it bubble and crack, and you can. I've done it where I heat it up really, really hot, and then chill it really quick, and you crack it.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. And then you can go back and use a running paint through it. It'll fill in the cracks and do all kinds of fun sort of things. And then you just varnish it really well and stuff. But so there's lots of fun things that you can do. So that's still wet there. I just don't want to damage the paint, so I don't want to dry it too quick. But I do want to get it dry enough so that it'll dry a little quicker. Normally what I do is I also turn on the fan and the air going over it with the heat. After the heat will dry really quickly. But this will get it dry pretty quick. But one of the tips though, when you're using a heat gun, is to let it cool really well, because that acrylic, especially if it's acrylic paint, the acrylic paint, it's sort of a plasticky, so you know what it's like if you get hot plastic. It's bendy and stuff. So let it cool, and it'll get more rigid. You can blow with it. And you can put your hand in the wet paint on the side of it, which is nice.
A mess.
I am, as usual. Oh, man, let's see. See, so this here, it's dry. The magic of heat guns.
So tell us how you use that to your advantage with like layering. How does that affect the color, going through, reflecting, all of those?
Yeah, I don't really like what I did up there, so I'm using it as an eraser. Really. So, but what I'm going to do though is I have some. It's a flow release, so I'm going to put this little on the canvas, just a little bit of it, and I'm going to put this titanium white, and it's going to make the white where it's a little more translucent than it normally would be. Because I don't like what I did up here. I don't hate it. So I got a little of the pink in with it, and mostly this white. And I'm just going to go in and simply just kind of just lighten it quite a bit, so that whenever I put some new layers on it, it'll erase it. Enough. Like I don't mind a little bit showing through, because the ideas of the colors are good, but I just did too much. I got a little over exuberant with it, so I'm going to put a little more flow release over here. Now, if you don't have a flow release medium, don't worry. You don't need it. In this other bottle, I've got water. Water will work. The only bad thing about water is that the pigment will. I'm knocking on my paint over. The pigment, it'll be reduced, and if you add too much water, the way that acrylic paint works is on a molecular level, it actually hooks to each other, so it binds to each other. Where like oil paint binds to the linseed oil or walnut oil or whatever medium you're using. But with acrylics, they bind to each other, and if you thin it down too much, it makes it where it'll crack, because there's not enough of it to bind, so there's space in between the paint. So if you use too much water, it'll crack. So if you're using water and your paint's cracking, that might be why.
Ooh.
But this other stuff though, it's a binding agent, so it acts like water, but you can really thin it down, and you're not going to have any trouble with it. It's sticky. So all this looks really ugly, which is fine. Nobody ever said paintings had to be pretty, or the painting process sure doesn't. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to put this up here. I'm going to let this dry. Actually, I could hit it with a heat gun, I guess.
I like that you're showing them how to kind of, if you're like, I don't like this, this is something that needs to be changed, how you can go about
Oh yeah.
fixing something like that.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point though. I mean, you're always going to make mistakes, but you're just trying it, so it's not really a mistake. Like you try something, and you think, no, that didn't work. I didn't like it, and I knew just as soon as I put that yellow down, I thought, I should have chosen another color, but instead of stopping, I went ahead and did it. I thought, maybe more of it'll fix it instead. I don't really like this color. I think I'm going to put a gobs of it.
Even more.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that works though. Like, in for a penny. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to work down here. Because what I have here, I have the sun coming down over here. I'm not really happy with that. I might shift it over here. Just because we can. So I'm going to do that. Put a little paint. Blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm able to do this too. Normally whenever I do a painting, I do a drawing first. But I'm doing this painting on a sort of a rule of thirds kind of thing. And all that is, when you do a painting, one of the ways to decide where something is going is a rule called the rule of thirds. So this is 1/3, this is 1/3, and then over here this is the third. So if you're going to put something in the painting, it's more pleasing to the eye if you follow like the rule of thirds. I don't always follow it, but on this, sometimes when you're breaking a canvas up, it's easier to do that. So for this, I know where the horizon line is going to be because I have it in the first third. So it's easy for me to put the paint and go in. It doesn't have to be exact. In fact, I think it works better if it's not exact, really. Because most
is huge with all of that, with all art, with photography, with all mediums.
Yeah, it really is, and it's funny how many different systems there are to be able to find something like there's like the golden, I don't know, what's it called, the golden curve or the golden.
Yeah.
But it's basically where you get the rule of thirds and you think about a curve going and so like one of the golden points would be about right here. So if you had like a bird flying through the air, that'd be a really good spot to put the bird because according to some people, that's where the eye kind of goes anyway. So if you fill in these little magic areas, it kind of helps your painting. I don't know. I think if you do that too much, you're hurting things because in nature you don't really find perfect sort of spots. So if you have too much of that, it's a good rule to follow. And for me, it's helping me put the composition together without having to do a lot of preliminary drawing. But it's like anything, use a little bit.
Well, and I think that the rule of thirds and all of that is kind of to combat that perfect concept because.
Oh yeah.
I think the first instinct of an artist that's new is to like everything has to be symmetrical, the face, everything, when that's not nature at all. So that makes it really awkward and usually that's kind of the problem with like CGI. Like if it's too perfect, it's awkward and creepy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean. Nature's definitely not perfect, so.
Well, when I teach my photo class, I teach the rule of thirds. That's one of the biggest rules that I teach, and I explain to them that they have to learn these rules first, and then they can break them all they want.
Yeah.
But just at least know them, at least understand them, and know what you're creating, and so then you can go in and you can play with your art and your craft. And,
you gotta know the rules before you can break them.
Yeah, that's a good thing to tell you.
At least that's what I teach my students. That's not always the case, but
well, I think that's the sign of a pretty master is they understand the craft and all that, and then you know how to properly break them. Yeah, and then you just like do what I want.
Yeah. But it makes sense. If you it's kind of like the Mona Lisa. One reason they think it's so great too is because it's not perfect. Like she has this weird smile, and it's all, like if it was just this perfect face, I think, then it would be like a poster. It'd be like the Farrah Fawcett '70s poster, where I don't know, it's just beautiful. People think, oh, that's nice, but I don't know. it's that quirky smile that's hard to capture and to understand.
Yeah.
You know, the sense of mystery. But so I'm just putting more of this stuff in there.
So when do you decide to lay down the horizon line? How does that work?
Well, I want to get this underpainting done a little bit better because it's going to make more and more work if I don't. Like if I don't get the underpainting done a little bit better, then it's going to be a lot of having to stop and start, you know, because there's a pine tree in the way, you know, and it just makes it a little bit harder. Hey, what time is it?
It is 7:41.
Because that might dictate when we do it too. We want to make sure we have time for everything.
Yeah.
So, but I'll do that. So I still have some time, and I have plenty of time. One of the things too is I'm putting in these the sort of light strokes and stuff, and I have some artist ink here. Let's see, I'm trying to read it. I'm looking for the right one. Where's my thing? There it is. One of the things you can do too if you're using acrylics, instead of always having to thin down your paints, you can also get artist ink, and you can use that to thin down your paint. And the neat thing about that is that you can make the paint flow like water, but it's not going to lose any of the pigment. In fact, it might even be brighter if you get this looser sort of paint. And for me, it changes the texture, and that can be important too. So sometimes I'll have like a certain, like a cad yellow, and I'll have the exact same cad yellow, but in a liquid form, in an artist ink form. And there's other things. There's like a watercolor form you can also get, or water acrylic. But it just makes it where it changes the feel of the paint, but also how it handles. So like I have that on this brush now, so I can put this on here, and you can get a very different sort of effect than if I had the thick paint.
Well, and I mean, I've always noticed that when you add the ink, they're way brighter.
Yeah, it's a nice sort of thing. So. It is nice. So let me add some more here. I just have the happy sort of sounds in my head really when I'm doing this.
So what are you painting to again with this?
It's Caribbean sort of music. So I have some on my Spotify and my Pandora that I listen to, and it plays a lot of different things. So, but
drums.
yeah, you got the steel drums. You've got the there's even like some rap, which I'm not like the biggest rap fan, but there's certain rap that I like. Like there's some rap from New Orleans that I like. There's some Caribbean stuff but it's done with the steel drums and everything. So they're talking, they're rapping, and they're singing. So there's some of that. There's all this different. Yeah, but the steel drums is wonderful. So we're just adding, and right now it's I'd say it's a very two-dimensional painting. And the trick is just doing this a lot now, but you have to be careful. The trick in turning this from being a two-dimensional painting into something that has more depth is putting more and more layers on it. Now the problem though is that when most people do that, they end up with a brown painting. You know, because they'll add one color over another color, and you keep doing that, and with the light, the more colors you add with light, the brighter it gets, and until you add all the colors with light, you end up with white light. With paint, it's the exact opposite. The more colors you add, the darker it gets. And with my paintings, I usually try to keep them very, very light, but I add a ton of color, and the way that I do that is by the colors that I mix together. Like I know that yellow is going to mix really well with orange, it's going to mix well with pink, and it's going to mix well with purple, so I'll mix those together. But if I add blue, it's going to make kind of a weird green sort of color, which is good. Sometimes that's a good thing. Now, if it starts to get too dark, if I know that I need to add those colors, I'll add a little bit more white streaks in with it, and that kind of brings everything back up to the white again. And then I can add more colors on that, and it makes it undulate a little bit. So doing a 2-hour painting, doing that makes it hard to put in all those layers, but I'm going to try to get as many as I can. So we usually actually keep putting a little bit of paint. Bah. So I was thinking, this is kind of a BYOB kind of theme, one of those painting workshop things, and I was thinking having a kid in the house, like a little baby, there's a lot of things that you would tell a drunk person, and then you would tell a baby. They're like the exact same thing. It's incredible how similar it can actually be.
Like what? Like put your pants back on?
Yeah, you really need to put your pants back on.
Don't do that right there.
Yeah, don't do that right there.
Yeah.
Can you put your shirt back on? Yeah.
Can you put your shirt back on?
Like, oh, don't put that in your mouth.
That's true.
There's so many. Is there anything anybody's like on the chat? Is there anything anybody's ever told a drunk person that they would have also told a baby, or vice versa? I'm curious.
I don't know. Your Uncle Joe's has chimed in. He's joined us. So if anybody's got a funny remark,
Oh, hey, Uncle Joe. Oh, one of it, of course, is like, no, I've already given you all my money. Stop asking.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to wait for somebody to chime in.
We need to use our inside voice. Oh. Why say this? Why are I can't say it. Why are you walking like that? Do you need to pee? That's something we say a lot.
Well, Jackson earlier was singing the same song over and over and over again. And I was just like,
Yeah.
Please stop.
Yeah.
Please just stop singing that.
Yeah.
You had a friend that run the John Mayer song for you, didn't you? Because he would not stop singing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Jason. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Was Wonderland. Whatever.
I sang it constantly,
Just
and I could
never
never
listen.
ever.
There are plenty of Jason stories that would
Yeah.
probably fall into that
Yeah.
category.
I didn't mention his name. I was being very political. But if Jason's watching, or if Jason and this is the funny thing about the internet is that even if someone's not watching now, they could be at some point. So if you're watching this, Jason, we love you, buddy.
I have lots of Jasons on my profile.
Oh. Oh, yeah, really? Like, which one? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so like, yeah. That's funny.
So Donna has joined us. She was the one that won the art last week.
Oh, congratulations. That reminds me really quick about Kate, who won it like
Yes.
2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Have we sent that out yet?
We're sending all of them, hopefully Monday.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm waiting. They're all getting printed. Is the deal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had a printing issue. Okay.
Yeah. So
Cool,
I mean,
cool.
I'm hoping that they'll come tomorrow, but we'll see. Anyway, she says the painting from last live stream looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm almost finished with it. I thought I'd finish it in a day or two, and then I started working on some other paintings, and so I have a lot of paintings that are getting really close to being done, and so I'll probably be knocking a bunch out, like boom, 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 because there's quite a few that are really close. And got a Joe Ramone one, got one of a China sort of theme, or two that are, and some other things. But we found a painting this week.
Oh my gosh.
The painting, the look, the one of a girl, and it's bright. I didn't Santa Barbara. It's like yellow background and blue eyeshadow sort of look. But it was missing for a while. We thought, did we sell it? I don't remember what happened to this painting. But I'd put it in between two other paintings to protect it, and then it got put in. And it was two blank canvases, and they got put up with a whole pile of blank canvases we have. And finally found it last week.
Yeah.
I'm still missing another painting though.
Yeah.
That's Tangled.
Yeah.
Which I've had like 8 or 9 people want to buy it, and I keep I was like, so I keep looking for it. Like, it's got to be around there somewhere, and every time we're like, I don't know what happened to it.
Which one is that?
It's the one of two women, and like they're cut off at the eyes when they're laying down, and their arms are just sort of tangled around each other a little bit.
Yeah, that's from back in the day.
Way back in the day.
Oh, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I stole that.
No, that's in my house right now.
Really. Like I'd be kind of happy. At least we know where it is. Like, yeah, I didn't lose it. I'm not crazy. No, but I don't normally lose art. I mean, the thing about it is that it's very thin as a watercolor, so it's probably sandwiched in between something else, and to keep it safe.
Yeah. And
then the other thing has been stored, and then we're going. I don't know. But the fun.
That was from
2006.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like,
Wow.
that's crazy.
Because I'd have been 26 and now I'm turning 36 this month.
Wow.
Did I just admit that on the internet?
Oh, that's crazy. I would have been 27 then, I guess, and now I'm 29.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Keep dreaming.
The way I do math. I've aged 2 years in the last 6 or 7.
6, please.
The way I do math. The
So
wonderful thing.
you're adding some pretty dark up at the top. What's up with that?
I just want it to be awesome.
Oh.
So now I want to give it more of an atmospheric sort of look, and one of the ways you can do that is by adding darker colors around the corners, around the eye, so if you have it so that you have lighter colors more towards the middle, and more of the blue spectrum, then it'll shift as you're going into the painting. So it's a little darker, a little lighter, a little bluer, and it'll give the idea of more of an atmospheric perspective. That's the idea. We'll see. We'll see if it works.
Well, Owen chimed in and asked if we had seen his YouTube channel, because the latest one he gives a shout out to the print that he won that we sent.
Oh
over to him.
man,
So
I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I haven't.
Yeah,
haven't seen it yet.
I'd like to share it on the chat. So, if there's a way for me to do that, I could do that.
Yeah, or maybe Owen can. If
Well,
Owen,
he can't. He has to be a moderator.
oh,
Or at
you, oh,
least I'd like to share chats.
oh, well, maybe if Owen could Facebook it to you.
Yeah, that's
email.
what I'm wondering. Cool.
So, one of the things I want to do, I want to talk about during the technique of the week is a way to set up your a painting area without having to spend very much money. Since we're doing sort of a BYOB kind of painting class thing, if you want to do this at home, if you want to take this if you want to be able to do this painting later, but you think I don't have brushes, I don't have paints, but I don't want to go spend $300 to get all that just to do a painting. There's lots of ways to do it where you don't have to spend that much money, and you can do a professional painting. Just because you're not spending hundreds of dollars on it doesn't mean that the quality of your work has to suffer. So there's some tips and tricks, and we'll go over that in just a little bit on the technique of the week. And we also are going to give away some art here in a little bit.
Yeah.
I wonder if we should go ahead and do that.
We can totally do that.
Well, hey, if you want to take over for that, I'm going to run.
Okay.
real quick.
Okay. All right. So we're doing the question. And let me explain really quickly before we do this. Gosh, everything's moved around. Okay, some of you might have just saw the question, but what we're gonna do is I'm gonna throw a question up there. I'll read it out loud, and whoever answers whoever thinks they know the answer, chime into the chat and put the right letter down. If you don't know, guess. And yeah, you can toss us. And then I will go in and write all the names, and then we'll draw it from the hat, and you guys will win a medium print, or I think we also have like a poster or something like that, but a medium print of your choice. So let me throw up the question and I'll read it to you guys. All right. In 1904, what color had Claude Monet stopped using? A, white, B, black, C, blue, D, yellow. So by 1904, what color had Claude Monet stopped using? A, white, B, black, C, blue, or D, yellow? So I'm even if you're not sure, you can totally just guess.
Heck yeah, you should definitely guess. Isn't that the first rule that the first thing you tell your students if you don't know, at least guess.
Yeah.
If it's a multiple choice.
Just at least your best. I do say do process of elimination.
Yeah, yeah. So if you know one's wrong, you think, well.
So as soon as I take this off the screen,
It's okay.
that'll be the last of the answers I take.
We need like some sort of theme music for this, like dramatic. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Some 007 type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Woo.
Or we could stick with the shark attack.
Yeah.
Shark attack.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
All right, so everybody think they know it? All right, I'm gonna show you guys the answer, and then we cannot take any more guesses.
Oh yeah, and we should tell them the prize, shouldn't we?
We already did.
Oh,
You were out of the.
I was not present.
So black. If you didn't guess it, that's it.
I like doing all three.
Yeah, really.
Somebody read all three.
Oh, that's actually not a bad guess because Claude Monet, he stopped using a lot of colors. Like he got rid of almost every color, but by like 1886 he had gotten rid of all the earth tones, browns, and finally by 1886 he got rid of black, and by 1905 the only colors he used were like a flake white, a cadmium yellow, a vermilion, a deep madder, cobalt, and emerald green. Most of the colors that I use here, but he stopped using black. He would just mix the other colors together, and that's really all he used. That was, so when he traveled to paint, it was kind of easy for him, because he didn't have that much that he had to really to bring around. But black though, he didn't use black, which was, or the earth tones. So he used color. One of the things that he did too that I think was kind of cool is that he would put the different colors really close to the canvas together, so you make a stippling, or put a brush stroke of one color and then another color right next to it. So you might do like a little yellow, then right next to it a little blue. When you look at it, you would swear he put green down, and there's no green there. It just mixes in your eye and your brain. So you sees green, but if you get close enough, if you get a magnifying glass and you get close, you say, oh, that's yellow, and there's no green there. I think that's pretty cool. And he does the same with blacks. He mixes the different colors, and he makes you swear there's a black there, and there is no black.
All right, so
how many people got it right? Do you think was it a good number?
it was a good number. It was probably about 7, maybe 6, 7.
Oh, cool.
So dun 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 dun. dun. Ta-da! Barb Dorrington.
Hey,
Is that right? Maybe get that right. Yes.
congratulations.
Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
So
Woohoo!
if you want to send us an email at bramblitt@gmail.com, and it's on the website, it's everywhere, but it's just my last name, bramblitt@gmail.com. But if you want to send us an email of whatever print that you want, we'll have it made and we'll send it out with the next shipment of orders.
Yeah.
It goes
Yeah.
out.
Yes. Do that. Or there's also a poster, a stolen moment poster.
Oh, that's true. That's 2
Barb,
feet by 3
Barb
feet.
already has a painting. Barb already.
Oh, that's right.
So she may want something different. Like there's also guitar picks. Those are great gifts, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
email bramblitt@gmail.com and we'll respond to you if you have any questions.
That's true. And the guitar picks and the posters, they're so new, they're not even on the website yet.
Yeah, we
so.
don't have those on the site. So.
But yeah, we have a poster of a stolen moment, 2 feet by 3 feet, huge.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool one.
It makes it a good gift too.
Congrats.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for playing, guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. So she said she's going to her friends in Ocean Springs in a month. So this is wonderful.
Oh, yay.
Yay.
That is awesome. Oh, poop. Putting paint everywhere. Haha.
Okay, so what are you doing next on the painting?
Well, I'm adding a little more of an opaque sort of pink, and I'm just putting that in there. And the hard part about this is that I want to make sure that I don't get it too dark in the middle, but but it makes it a bit of a challenge because I do want color there. So I just kind of have to weave it in, and the way that I'm going to try to do that is just by putting in a little bit of color. Keep in mind where your horizon line is, and then you can just start working in a little more color and a little more color. And if you start with the areas where you already have color, and then you work into the areas that have less, then you're automatically gonna keep the areas with more color. They're gonna stay with more color. Does that make sense? Because I put more paint on the edges anyway. So if I'm gonna work towards the center, I start at the edges and I work in.
Yeah.
So these areas are gonna stay with more color, and then it's gonna stay a little lighter towards the middle anyway. And so now I'm working a little bit more with a very light sort of paint. I'm not sure how much it shows up on the camera, and I'm having it cross over, and that's okay. We're going to put a light source in later, but right now I'm just going to have it cross over, and that way whenever I go in and put highlights, there's something to highlight. Like, for a highlight to work, you need to have some deep lights or deep notes that are
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because Josh, who I believe is Donna's grandson, chimed in and asked, on the horse from last week, I noticed that the shadows and light. Are you able to do that from memory, from before you lost your sight?
That's a really good question, and it sort of is, and it sort of isn't. I mean, I remember that, but it's a lot better to be able to touch things. And with the horse, what I've done is I've changed things quite a bit, and I built it up very slowly. So with the horse, I actually had some areas I knew that were going to be very, very dark, and I don't know if you can see it, but and then I had to lighten them up later on. But I just put in like marks. So if you go back and you look at last week's video, you can see some black lines that are in the horse. And those are areas that I thought that there might be more shadow. And then as I was forming up the layers of the horse, you start to shift it a little bit. You start thinking, well, there's going to be these muscles going this way, and it's going to bulge a little bit here, and then you just slowly form it up. And that may sound hard, but you just do it slowly, and then eventually it just starts kind of coming together a little bit. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting in it's a medium CAD. Oops, I used it up. Oh, here we go. And I'm wiping it on, or I'm brushing it on. I'm letting it sit for a little bit, and then I'm going back over with a cleanish cloth, and I'm making it a little bit lighter in the middle. So it's gonna make it where it has a transition, sort of a little bit in the color. The main thing about this is that we don't want it to be too perfect. So right now it's pretty, it's perfect in the way that the colors are going in a kind of a V pattern. And if you've ever been in the ocean, it doesn't really work that way. You've got areas where they overlap, areas where they're not as good. Nice. So right now I'm putting in a lot of this color, but I'm going to go back in and I'm going to lighten it here in a minute. Hey Jackie, what time is it?
8:04.
8:04, okay. Well, cool. That's pretty good. So let me see. This should be. It's not. Then this one should be. It is. Okay. One little turquoise.
So you said your plan is to do an island with some palm trees, right?
Yeah. I started working on one earlier this week for a commission, and then I was listening to the music and the house hunter stuff, and it just has it all in my head. And
speaking of house hunter stuff, I'm curious if there's anybody out there that would that has like a specific place they would totally move to in a heartbeat. Like, I don't know where there was so many places on that, like House Hunters International, that I don't know, Italy, looking out on the water and all sorts of stuff.
I've heard Maine is beautiful.
See, I would do Maine. Too.
I'm afraid they would try to make me eat fish every day.
Well, they probably would. I would try to get you to eat fish every day.
It's like, you go in there, let me tell you about the catch of the day. I hope it's a cow. No. I hope you guys caught a cow.
We can want one today.
Yeah. Just wandered in.
Well, Well, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned Maine because right now I'm on. We're always starved for the next Netflix show to watch because, well, we don't watch cable, but so I'm on this Murder She Wrote fix, and
You've been on that for a while.
What?
Well, they made like
A million of them up there.
seasons.
I know, and it's funny, and you still haven't through, and you'll fall asleep, and I'll come in there like 3 hours later, and they're still going.
Yeah, well,
So-
it's funny because we used to watch that show. Me and my mom used to watch that show with my grandmother when I was really little. So it's been 20 plus years or whatever. So I'll just cozy up and watch me some Murder She Wrote.
Fall asleep while
Some Angela Lansbury.
I actually saw that was on there, and it's recommended for me because I watch so many mysteries. And stuff.
Yeah.
And oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, she's from Maine, and so of course, she's from this tiny town, Cabot Cove, and all that. Anyway, it made me think of that. But it's funny. There's a lot of I just watched one last night where David Hasselhoff was in it.
Oh, really?
And two other major
What?
stars that were super young. You would have never. I was
was he
"Is that
wearing
really?"
a speedo?
No. Not yet.
You had no interest in where you're like, oh, well, never mind.
Oh, well.
Next show.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm on me a Murder She Wrote kick right now on Netflix. So.
You know, I'd never watched that show, but I didn't realize that the dad from Happy Days was on it.
Oh yeah.
But he has he has the accent, like the northern.
Yeah.
I miss Racha. You know that sort of.
That's great, John.
Yeah. I can't. That's why I'm not an actor.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Racha. But his voice is so funny. It took me a while to recognize who he was.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you're Mr. Cunningham. That's not.
I know who you are.
Why are you? And so I thought it was just a bit part. Every episode he's on is, of course.
Yeah, and he plays an interesting role. He's, obviously he's the chief of police there, but he's very passive when it comes to her. Kind of naive. It's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Well, any copper is naive
Copper.
on that show because she has to be the bigger, mystery
course.
solver.
That's how it was in all
But
those.
yeah, it's true.
I mean,
it's true.
Franny Fisher
Yeah, it's a good one. That's a really good one.
and Hercule Poirot. Hercule Poirot.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all. Yeah, I'm on that kick. I'm also on a kick of timely shows like Downton Abbey is an example of that. I've already finished pretty much that, but yeah, Amazon Prime right now has got Mr. Suffrage? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, Selfridge. That's a good show. It's got what's his name? The short dude that he was in Judgment Night and.
Why are you naming all these things? I have no idea.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm on this kick. This kick of old shows where it's in the 1920s and
Checked
stuff like
out
that.
Amazon Prime to see what they have.
I just did 2 days ago.
It's really.
I've been watching some really amazing B movies.
Oh.
Really
Save
bad.
this for our movie nights, John.
Oh well, but I have to go through them and see. And there was actually one that was pretty good. But but you were talking about the Miss Fletcher, the Angela Lansbury, and the cop.
Yeah.
And the way it's different because she has to be the big person.
Yeah.
In a movie or in lit, it's called a foil.
Mm.
And I think that's interesting because it's the same with painting. So that
Oh, that's
we're
cool.
we're in lit, you have a foil. So you'll have the strong character like Angela Lansbury, oh, that's a murder. It's obviously a murder. And he's like, well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. But him saying that makes this seem more like it makes this character seem stronger and
It
smarter.
highlights the character.
It does.
Yeah.
And it makes this guy seem more dim, but it makes the other character.
Paint his character.
Yeah,
Draw little faces on those things.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Miss Fletcher, I think it's definitely the doctor that did it. And then but it's the same with colors. So if you mix these two together, the green makes the red pop, and the red makes the green pop. So it's interesting. I think, and they're different art forms. They have the same ideas, and that's my puppet show for the week.
That's impressive, John.
Thank you. I know I'm not just a one-trick pony. I've got layers of complexity that no one ever wants to know about. So yeah. One of the things we do too. I don't know, I'm a little obsessed with art, so I'm always looking at articles and things about art. But do you want to talk about the news stories of the week?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Are
Okay.
you at a drying place?
Well, I'm in a bit of a drying place, but take a sip.
rotation.
But I'm gonna come over and join you guys on the couch.
Right?
Well, I was gonna move earlier.
Yeah, cool.
So official.
I know.
All right, guys. So this is something that we wanted to talk about a little bit. We're a little obsessed with art. I've got a Bluetooth device here. And so we just wanted to go over a little bit of the stories and stuff that we heard. Oh, you're very official. Very officious. Although officious.
I know officious does not mean what we had this conversation. I know. Every time you use this word.
I know, you think it would mean official, but it doesn't mean official. It means something completely different.
Yeah.
It means overly helpful to the point of annoyance.
Oh, you're very officious.
I know.
Listen.
Wait, what?
Maybe I do know what it means. Well, all right. Well, one of the things this week, though, that I noticed, and I thought this was kind of interesting, but in Colombia, there's an artist, Fernando Botero, who he has these head sculptures, and so it's a way of protest, and you've got to know when the air quality is getting bad, when you start seeing the sculptures start wearing face masks, air masks. But these protesters went in and they put these different masks on the heads. There was like 80 of these giant heads going in this area. Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's 23 of the bronze sculptures, and in this area they put these giant masks that they made, which I thought was pretty creative.
And you said they were huge, like they were huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're enormous.
Yeah, they made them all. So it's like official looking kind of masks, and they put them on there. But I thought it was kind of neat because they didn't hurt the sculptures at all. And I'm not sure what the artist thought.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And yeah, Brooke asked that earlier. What the artist might have thought of that, but I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know.
And I would think that if I don't know, artists tend to be open. Well, sometimes to like people being able to interpret their work and stuff. At least the ones that I know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you can't be mad at the free publicity.
Right. And now he's his name's plastered all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
only
sure.
that's only positive. They say any publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't hurt.
So
Oh, for that sound, you could unclick the sound and it won't play that sound.
We're working on that.
No, I mean, I know, because like for getting the cameras. Yeah, so you got to think. So yeah, he would be happy. I mean, surely. Even if he says he's not happy, he's got to be like, yes.
right,
Yeah.
on the inside.
Like, yeah, like
Don't deface my sculptures.
Yeah.
But sweet.
Yeah. But
Well, and I think I think it's interesting how art is used for. Used for all sorts of commentary on society's, issues at the time and all of that.
Yeah.
And there was an artist that I thought was interesting back in the day when I was in college, and he did a piece. His name is Dred Scott, I believe, and he did a piece where it was the American flag, and it was placed on the ground in front of this book, and in order to give your commentary on the art show or anything, you had to walk across the flag to write in the book. And it was a huge controversy, obviously. But I thought it was interesting that it played on the fact that you have this freedom to write in the book because of this flag and vice versa. All these
That's a really interesting play on that.
Yeah, it was really I don't know, it was really interesting. But I believe his name was Dred Scott. So
Dred Scott, you sure?
And that's
something else, I think.
I
I don't know what
I don't
look that up.
Anyway, look it up if you're curious.
I want to say the Dred Scott case was a case.
Oh, I don't know.
But I could be completely wrong. I don't know. I'm bad with names. I don't know.
Anyway,
Google
But I like the
anyone.
name Dred.
Anyone.
Yeah.
That's a good name. It's a good name for a vampire. I've been watching
My
like,
name
vampire
is Dred
movies.
Scott.
There ought to be like Dread.
Yeah.
Something. In the same part of the world though, Louis Vuitton is putting on a fashion show in Rio de Janeiro, which is kind of funny to me
Well,
a little bit because it's and I don't know. I mean.
we really need to. Okay, there we go. Sorry, guys.
Oh well and there's a museum that he's putting it in. So the museum is it's an art piece in itself, and it's really interesting. And then in that museum, like he's bringing his fashion, and so is this a picture of the fashion?
Yes.
So is it an actual fashion show, or is it like are people wearing it, or is it just on display? Like when you say.
Because it's in a museum.
It's a fashion show.
Yeah, it's
so
gonna
they're
be
gonna be walking the
runway.
the runway of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a huge show there, but I don't know, which I just thought was interesting because like Rio's already known for fashion, sort of, like the little, I don't know, the swimwear and all that sort of stuff. It's known for flowers and all that kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like an interesting place to go. So, and then also, I mean, they have their own sense of style too. So it's not like it's one of the places in the world where they're not lacking on style. Like can you show the street scene? And
yeah.
And so it's crazy, But for like during their carnival, it's like a week, Just
Do
like
they wear
crazy.
clothes during that? Really?
They
Are
do,
those
it's all like flowers
clothes?
and stuff.
Well, here I'm gonna let John do it, but
Yeah, so
There we go.
there's carnival, and for them though, I mean, this is just like Tuesday, it's just like normal. I mean, they have feathers and birds and stuff going everywhere, and it's just sort of it's just kind of crazy. And I was just thinking, he ought to. There's places that need fashion, that really need fashion. Like I think it's cool. Like if I was going to put on a show, Rio's a place to go. But if he wants to go where the need is, like any Walmart anywhere.
yeah.
So
Right.
So I mean, good Lord, man. So
Yeah.
Louis, you are needed. So we
I don't know, but Target's got some good stuff.
Oh yeah, well heck yeah. So
Yeah.
there's all that.
So
Also, there was a news segment. Oh, and Jack's joined us. Hey, Jack.
hey.
We're talking about fashion. Your favorite thing.
Woo!
There was a thing in the news too. Is Andy Warhol? It was like Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol, world's most famous ass. It was what I read. It was what I thought it was, and I thought,
You're like, really?
but is it? Is he really?
I have a few other people in mind that
Yeah,
I
is
could put
he-
in
is
that
he-
in that category.
I don't know. He's the most famous ass in the world. But that wasn't even the whole. It wasn't what it was. I just
Right.
misread. I misheard it.
So
My
what are
gosh.
they? What is it about?
They're in Tribeca this week. They're showing a documentary, the Documentary Film Festival,
Oh, okay.
and they're showing like he did a this is actually a still from the 1964 film Taylor Mead's Ass, where they showed Taylor Mead's bottom, I guess, and so this is a still from that,
Nice.
and it because of that it made Taylor Mead's like the most famous bottom in the world, but it's being, I don't know, I think it's interesting. So many years after that, now they're re-showing that, and there's a documentary called, let's see, what is it called? Taylor and the Ultra on the 60s, the factory of being a Warhol superstar. So I think it's interesting. I don't know,
Yeah.
Like the last few years, there's been some documentaries about it, like the Factory Girl.
Yeah,
all that.
definitely.
It's pretty interesting.
And isn't that on Netflix, I think? Or no?
Yeah,
I think it was.
It was at one
Yeah, I
point.
think I might have taken it down.
it's one of the fun things about Netflix, how it changes.
You never know.
And this is a Caravaggio that's been missing until this week.
Yeah, this is actually, I found this fascinating because apparently on Tuesday, French experts confirmed that the painting found in the attic of a private house near the French city of Toulouse was in fact the long lost second version of Caravaggio's Judith beheading. What is his name? Holofernes?
Holofernes?
Holofernes. Anyway, so what was interesting about this is that, well, I mean, first of all, it's just randomly in somebody's attic, which is crazy.
It's like, how long has that house been in the family, for real?
Yeah,
Like, for
really.
something to
Yeah,
be sitting up there
it's
for
a good
that
point,
long.
Yeah.
And it's not. And also they confirmed it because apparently Caravaggio painted two of these, and the original one was painted in 1598 or something around those lines, and then he painted a second one around 1604, and that second one was lost because he apparently was like a crazy guy, and he went to he what was it? He left. Oh, I'm trying to think for a second. He got into a fight and he fled Rome. I forget for where, but he had that painting with him. And so years later, some dude paints a copy of that painting, and only like 1607. And so that copy is hanging somewhere. So when they found this original, they were like, "That's gotta be it." That's the original of this copy that's been hanging for hundreds
That's
of years.
crazy.
Anyway, so that's fascinating. So how much was that painting worth? They're saying.
137 million.
Oh,
It almost makes you want to research that family and see, like, how did they get a hold of it? What kind of scheme was involved to, get this, and the copy that was made, all that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I read that they only found it because it was wet up there.
Yeah.
They were just
Yeah, it's not.
But the most interesting thing about that to me is that France is never gonna have the cleanest attics anywhere in the world.
Right.
Everybody's gonna be scouring the
Okay,
attics,
we've got to go check out our attic.
We can have a Caravaggio up there, which earlier, and this has nothing to do with anything except we talked about Monet not using black.
Wearing book shoes.
Caravaggio was like the painter that used black the most. So in this segment we talked about somebody that used the black the most with his chiaroscuro to Monet who didn't use it at all.
Crazy.
Well, I actually get back to paint my painting.
All right, cool.
That's been art news.
And that was our news. Y'all should share how you felt about the art news segment, and like if there's anything that you discovered.
Yeah.
Anything interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. We're just a little obsessed with art, so
Fun facts.
yeah, fun facts would be
Yeah, if
cool.
anybody else has heard any crazy stuff, share it with us.
Yeah. Has Owen been able to get you a link for his
I have not
his YouTube
seen it
situation?
Well, I did not
Oh,
see
crap.
his. Let's see, where do you get? Well, he did ask where do you get your art supplies.
Oh, everywhere, anywhere. Depends on the price usually, and because I try to buy good quality stuff. So I'll go on our research, and it's different because if you're looking for a particular brand, then it makes it easier, I guess, but or simpler because you just look for the cheapest place. But I usually go on Amazon, I go on eBay, I go on the manufacturer's website. I'm having hiccups. I go to the manufacturer's website, anywhere and everywhere. And it's funny because sometimes the manufacturer on their website will be running a deal. They're not running anywhere else. And they'll have their own like Amazon store. So it's like it's almost separate. Then they'll have an eBay store. And that's separate from the others. So sometimes the eBay store could be running a discount that the others aren't. There's also Dick Blick. There's Jerry's Artorama. I order a lot of things from Dick Blick and Jerry's Artorama. And I usually order in bulk. So like whenever I order 18 by 24 inch canvases, I think my last order of those was like for 18 of them or something. And so I usually order in the same amount for like 16 by 20s and just lots and lots of stuff. But it makes it where if you know that you're going to be using it, it's like if you're able to, you can make it where you're just paying a fraction of the price for it. Because I know me, I'm going to be painting next month and the month after, so it makes sense for me to buy in bulk. Like acrylic paints I have over there, I have 2 shelves of acrylic paint. I've got a box over here full of them. But I buy, when it's cheaper. You can also use coupons.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Well,
Yeah.
I know I use, like, Hobby Lobby and Michael's every week has a 40 or 50% off coupon. And so if there's, like, a major ticket item or a big canvas that you got to paint on or something, like, I wait.
Yeah.
Or go multiple
Even
times.
for framing, they have they sometimes have great deals on framing that you can get.
Yeah.
You got to use it. Definitely use a coupon because, man, that helps.
Yeah, and and it doesn't matter if it's called a hobby store. I know there's some people that are artists like, I only go to the finest art stores. These manufacturers of paints and brushes and things, they send the same stuff everywhere. So you just look and you try to get the best price. With the canvas, you want to get a good quality canvas. What I do generally with my canvas is that if it's 18 by 24 or under, I frame it for free, and I frame it so I'll get a thinner canvas, and I do that because it's easier to. I just think it looks nice with a frame when it's a smaller canvas.
Yeah, the floating frames look nice.
Yeah, we use a floating frame, which I'm not sure. I've got a painting back here in a floating frame, and it just means that it's not touching the sides of the canvas. If it's bigger than 18 by 24, what I usually get is a really deep canvas, so it looks nice on the wall. It's more substantial, and it gives it a really nice look. But you just try to find a good quality canvas, and you don't have to go over quality though. You can get some canvases that are really crazy expensive because maybe somebody wants a fine linen. They want this for a certain thing, and if you're going for a certain look, then that's great. But if you're doing a typical sort of acrylic kind of painting, you don't necessarily need to spend $100 on a canvas. Which, let me get this a little bit more because that's a really good question. It actually it goes in pretty well with the technique of the week, which is how to save some money in the canvas. I mean, in the studio. Sorry. But let me get this a little bit more because I want to get this to the point where we start putting in the trees and the stuff and the trees and the tiny little island and all that kind of stuff. So let me do that really quick. So what I'm doing now, I put a dioxazine purple and I'm putting in a little pink because I want to lighten that purple just a tiny bit.
So do you usually stretch your own canvases if it's a larger painting then?
You know, I don't hardly anymore, and I used to.
I used to all the time.
Yeah, that's right. I used to do them just constantly. I didn't buy pre-stretched canvas, and oh, you're talking to me. Sorry, I thought you were talking to Jack back here. And a big reason I did that is because when I was relearning how to draw and getting into painting, it took me a long time for my proportions to be right. So in my mind, I would have an idea for a drawing, but when it came out, it was always a little bit bigger than what I thought it would be.
Uh-huh.
So I would try to do a 16 by 20, and then I would do and I'd be going way off the canvas, and so I had to stretch my own so that I would, it would match the canvas, and I would just make it. But then it got to the point where if I wanted a 16 by 20, I would paint a 16 by 20 and I would cut it out and I would make it 16. I mean, it was the same. So by that point, I could just buy pre-made canvases. Well, one of the things that's nice about stretching your own canvas and priming your own canvas is that you can change the gesso on it. So the gesso is typically the white stuff that's on the painting. That primes it, protects the canvas. It protects the canvas from the paint. It could be any color you want if you're doing it yourself. But usually, if you buy it from a store, it's white or black.
Right.
But you can always re-gesso the painting when you get it home. So if you want the painting to have more tooth, so it's really rough and it'll grab the paint, you can change the gesso on it. Or if you want it really smooth, you can change that. But most of the canvases you'll buy in a store have a medium gesso, which is just perfect for almost everything. So you usually don't have to change it that much.
Yeah, Valerie chimed in and said her husband stretches his, and Witzel builds his own sometimes as well.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I used to, and I just I really liked it, and now for me, I probably will again. Now for me, I just like having a bunch going at one time and having to stop to build the stretchers. I just lose time in the studio, and I'd rather be painting than building stretchers.
Definitely.
But on the other hand, I really enjoy building stretchers.
I think it was the precursor to you building the deck outside.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's exactly right. I honed my wood cutting skills, and that if I can build a stretcher, I bet I can build a deck.
And guys, the deck that he built is kind of amazing.
Thank
you.
you.
People come over and they're like, no.
Yeah.
He didn't do this. But
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was inspired. There was a woodworker who was blind. Who lived up north, and he's passed away now. He had some other health problems, but he was a cabinet maker, and he made these amazing, cabinets that people would order, these custom cabinets, that he would put together. And he was blind. He was completely blind. And I thought, well, good grief, if he can do all this finished sort of carpentry kind of work, then surely I could do a 45-degree cut.
Yeah.
right.
And especially if you have a miter saw that holds it, all you have to do is, because like the saws I use, you bracket everything in, and then when you're ready and you got to cut, then you turn it on and cut it. So all the work's kind of done before the saw's even on.
Yeah.
You just make sure it's right.
How many times did you injure yourself?
None.
Really?
Well, and that's the thing with those big power saws. If you injure yourself, you notice it because you're missing something.
Yeah.
Because it's a giant saw. So I'm gonna let this dry a little bit, and let's do the technique of the week.
All right. Are you ready?
Well, ready as I'm ever gonna be.
Technique of the week.
Thanks again to Jack for giving the voice to that technique of the week. Good job, buddy. This week, really, what I wanted to talk about was more of tips. Really, it's ways to set up your studio or to get painting, and not have to spend a ton of money to be able to do it. And one of the great ways, if you haven't decided on a medium, I know like when I first started painting, I wanted to do oils because I wanted to use the same materials that the master painters used, and which is great. And if you want to do oils, that's wonderful. It's way more expensive though, and it's harder cleanup, which means that if you're going to be painting for like an hour a day, you may spend 20 minutes of that cleaning up and the oil paint. So you're really only painting 40 minutes, and it may be more than 20 minutes. With acrylics, they're water soluble, but also they're cheaper. So if you're on the fence, you're thinking like, oh, should I do oil? Should I do acrylics? Well, just expense-wise, acrylics makes a lot of sense. And there's different mediums that you can add to the acrylics to make them work and feel just like oil. So if you want that oil look, you can get it with acrylics. And the wonderful thing with acrylics too is that they have a lot of, depending on the brand, you have good UV protection. It'll preserve the pigment in the sunlight. And there's just so much you can do with them. You can thin them down to like water. You can make them so hard you can carve them with a knife. So you have this wonderful broad range of flexibilities with them. And for the most part, they're less expensive. Also, you don't need to start with a million different colors. You can just start with a few. So you want to get into painting. Maybe you even want to do black and whites. If you want to do a black and white grayscale kind of painting, all you need is black and white. You can make all the grayscale sort of colors that you want. And you can start adding colors. I know when I first started painting for months and months and months, I used black, white, and cadmium red. That's all I used. And then I added a blue. And I painted with those for months. And then I added another color, and I painted with that for months. So you don't need to have a whole host of different colors. And if you look at master painters like Monet, like I was listing out what paints that he used earlier, and it was only like 6 paints. That's it. That's about all he uses, about 6, 7 different colors. That's all that he used in his palette, and he was able to do an incredible range. So you don't necessarily need a ton of paint. And not having a ton of different colors to choose from, it kind of helps you focus a little bit more, and it helps you get better at blending the colors and learning how those colors work, which can be kind of helpful. Other thing are brushes. Now, whenever you go into an art store, you're going to see a ton of brushes, and you can feel overwhelmed. Oh, do I need hog hair, horse hair, human hair, fake brushes, whatever. There's a million different kinds for oil, some for acrylics, some for watercolors, some that they say are good for everything. Well, the truth is, if you're starting out, any kind of brush is probably going to be a good. So you could get a multi-pack just so you get an idea of the different shapes. That's another thing that could be a little worrisome, is that you see all these different shapes. Well, the fact of the matter is that when you're painting, you're probably not going to use that many different shapes, depending on what you're doing. This is a 1-inch flat. Here, I'll show it right here. This thing works great. I use this a lot for this painting. This is the only brush I've used for this painting up to this point.
I noticed that. I was going to ask you about that earlier, but I'm glad I didn't, since it's the tip of the week.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. And I'm lazy, so I don't need to change brushes. But the nice thing about a brush like this is that you can get a long stroke, and you can also get a very fine edge. So whenever it comes to painting the trees that I'm going to do in a minute, I'm probably going to use this one. If I don't use this one, I'm going to use one that's very similar but a little smaller. And this is the shape that you would typically, when you think of a paintbrush, this is the shape that you usually get. And I recommend this size or this shape quite a bit for people, because if you've ever had any kind of arts and crafts class, you've probably used a paintbrush that looks like this. So you're already kind of used to it, and it just feels right. It has a bit of a tip, so if you want to do a fine line, you can. And if you push down, it'll get really fat. That's really all you need. There's angled brushes, there's fan brushes, there's blush brushes, there's all these different things, and you can get those. If you're just starting out, you don't really need them. You can, I'd say, get a couple of different brushes, really play with them. And by playing with those, you're going to find out what you want. Like, you're going to see a brush at an art store, and you're going to think like, oh, I want to try that. And the nice thing, if you go to the hobby stores, is using the coupons. So if you want to get a different brush set, use a 40% off coupon. These brushes that I have here, I bought them in bulk, and so I have like 150 of these different brushes and different sizes and stuff. And then I have a drawer full of other brushes, and I buy them in bulk because it's cheaper that way. It's more money on the outlay, but the beginning of it. But then you don't, all your brushes you ever use are at a discount, so it's always cheaper. And
do you remember where you got those?
No, Amazon, Dick Blick, or Jerry's Artarama. I think one of those, because I went on at the time, and I looked online to see what sales were running at that time, which is a big thing. Most of the stuff that I buy in the studio, I try to buy in bulk, Now, if you're just an artist by yourself, that can be hard sometimes, but you can sometimes find friends that are getting into art, and you can buy stuff. Like I buy mediums, and you can buy mediums in a bottle that's like a little bit bigger than this, and it might be like $20, or you could buy it in a giant tub of it, and it might be $130, $140, but it's like dozens and dozens and dozens of these bottles. You know, it's so much cheaper. It's ridiculous. So if you get a few friends, you can split the cost too that way.
Yeah.
And also things like palettes. This palette that I'm using here, it's a board with wax paper on it. I love it. It costs this entire giant palette costs less than a penny. The board was free. The wax paper, when I'm done with it, which I should be done with it pretty soon, was pretty thick and chunky. You just rip it off. You put another one down. It costs less than a penny to replace the palette. Or you can go to an art store and buy one for $40 or $30. And one this big you can't find. So, you know, it just depends on what you want to do. All painting is taking something that's sticky and putting it on something that's going to hold it and not let it fall off and preserve it. Everything else is just, it's just floats and adjustment. It doesn't really matter, you know. So anything you can do to get your stuff on, get your artwork on the painting, that's all that really matters. So that's really the technique of the week, is just to save some money in the studio.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a good technique.
Coupons.
Yeah, coupons. Coupons are a big thing.
Yeah. Download the store apps or print out the
Yeah.
The Michaels app isn't very good, but the Hobby Lobby app is good.
Yeah, that's true. And one of the biggest things I think is that somebody getting into painting, they think maybe they're not a professional artist if they're using like a student grade paint for one thing. I use professional grade, I use student grade, I use any kind of grade I want, you know, because the only difference between a student grade and a professional grade is how much pigment's in it. And if I want a thinner paint, I'll just get the student grade because I'm going to thin it down anyway, you know, and it's a way cheaper. Or I know that if I'm going to add pigment to it, I might get a student grade because I'm going to be adjusting the pigment more. So I want a little less pigment. So, you know, the idea between a professional grade and student grade is kind of silly in a way. It's just how much pigment's in the paint. Usually, I mean, also it can be the quality of the paint, but usually it's just how much pigment's in there. So really, I think when you're shopping for your art supplies, just leave your ego at the door. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's no, I've never had a buyer buy a painting and say, "Oh, what kind of brush did you use? Was it an Artiste professional brush, or what sort of palette did you use, and what did you put it on there?
Did it have real hair?
Yeah. Yeah, was your
I only use human.
Yeah, exactly. So never has that ever come up. So just use what makes sense to you, and I mean, that's what artists through the ages have always done.
So what do you have next to do on this painting?
I'm gonna put in a.
838 button.
Oh, cool. Thank you. What if I can find this? I'm gonna put this. That's the wrong shape. I'm looking for pigment really quick. I think when I knock the bottle over, I move that pigment. So let me see. Okay, here we go. All right. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna paint a tree. Ta-da!
Do it.
Painting trees. So first, I put a medium, some of that flow release, a little black ink, and some acrylic paint because I want to get a really nice flowing sort of paint here. Make some sexy lines.
Until you said sexy, you sounded just like the guy with the big hair he used to
Bob
do.
Ross?
Bob Ross.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why I have to say sexy every once in a while. That way I can distinguish what I'm going to make a sexy line. I need to stop saying
black, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Since black is sexy.
Black is sexy. I want it to be perfect, so it needs to be black. So I'm using this brush that is the same shape as that big brush that I showed you a minute ago, but it's thinner. But it's the same shape. It's just a little smaller. But I mix a medium in with it that's going to make it where it's going to dry really quickly, but it's going to make it so that I can feel it.
So what exactly are you outlining right now?
It's going to be the island, and I'm just putting like a little bit of a peninsula of an island, because this is it's going to be a Caribbean coast,
Okay.
and one of the things about the Caribbean art course is all the islands, the atolls, all this different stuff, and it's just, it jets in, it jets out. You get these wonderful little bays, little areas. And so I just want to give the impression of that, the idea of that. But this is something really simple, so I'm just using a bone black. If you don't have bone black.
So is it going to be a silhouette, or are you going to add some highlights or something?
It's going to be mostly a silhouette. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to use some highlights and stuff.
I like it best when he's like, I don't know really.
Yeah.
I don't know really what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to play early. We're going to have some Mai Tais. We're going to figure it out. Maybe a pina colada. And when we get done with that, maybe we'll feel some highlights. No, but the thing about it is that you can add highlights. You can just keep it a complete silhouette. So for that, I'm probably going to add some highlights to it because that's just fun. It's interesting. But it's going to be mostly a silhouette. But the highlights will give it a bit of an idea of a time frame. So like it'll be more like dusk or dawn.
Yeah.
Because if you look out on the beach, you'll see it's pretty dark. But there's light coming through the phones and different things.
I think it'd be really cool. I used to live in a city, St. Martin. And one thing that I think would be really cool to see is like a beach covered in jellyfish. Because that was like one thing that I would walk around and I know this is violent, but I'd stab the jellyfish and throw them in the water. But I found out later they regenerate. I didn't kill them. I don't think.
Just gave them a really bad day.
Really bad day for them. But you could barely walk on the beach because of so many of these little gelatinous blobs. Have you ever sat on one?
No, I've been stung. But
Been there, done that.
No.
But I think that'd be really neat to see John do a painting of like jellyfish.
That would be cool.
Would he going around
you
stabbing them all?
Shiny.
The reflections and all that. That would be cool. There you go, babe.
Yeah,
Jellyfish.
That's my request.
Yeah.
I think we should. Here's my quest.
What, baby?
Painting of it, in the background. I want a painting of the under the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Now I can't say.
An octopus?
octopus, a popsicle,
Oh, yeah.
a popsicle,
underwater.
A popsicopus?
An octopus.
an octopus
eating a popsicle?
an octopus in the background, and there's fish all you have. You have the water, and there's an octopus tentacles in the back, there's black in the middle,
Mhm.
tentacles coming out as the background, and then there's fish all around that black.
That's cool.
That would be neat.
Did y'all see my post on Facebook about the escaping octopus?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, I did see that where he
And
got
I was just like, everyone be
the-
like Inky. Like, for real. the octopus named Inky from New Zealand.
Yeah.
And, got out of his cage because someone left a little part of the I guess not cage, but tank open. And Inky
Wow.
got out, went across the floor, found a little hole, and escaped back to the ocean.
Really?
Man,
Wow.
yeah, it's like Finding Nemo right there.
They have a
Apparently
new show
they're really
coming
good
out,
at
Finding
stuff like
Dory.
that.
They
Yeah.
have a new show coming out.
Yeah.
Since all of this time, gracious goodness, people, finally you make a new Finding.
It's about
song.
time.
So
Yeah.
be like Inky. Find your way out if you're not happy. If you feel trapped.
That is
You're
awesome.
trapped.
Okay, so how are you doing this, John?
I'm going in. I chose this brush because it gives it more of a light feel. So what I'm doing is I'm going in, and the great thing about a palm fronds is that they're just sort of a crazy kind of bad hair day sort of tree. So it's a tree that I really relate with and I identify. It's my soul tree. It's my soul animal of the tree. But here I'll do another one. So if you want to do a palm tree, a really easy thing to do, and one thing I should do too is that I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna bump this land a little bit, because land isn't just there's no really straight lines in nature. So I'm going to bump it around a little bit, just to make it more visually interesting.
So is that going to be the only tree that you do?
No, I'm going to do one right now. Okay, so I'm going to do another little Bob Rossi and Happy Tree right over here. And we'll get lots of paint. And I'm going to go a little fatter.
You said black paint tends to be thicker or thinner than white paint, you said?
Oh, I usually make it to be thinner.
Okay.
That's kind of my thing.
Okay.
Like I can make it thicker, but I don't. That's a good question. And so, okay, let me zap it really quick so I can touch it, so I can tell where I ended. So the medium that I put in this paint, it makes it where it'll where I can feel it. It has a bit of a different texture than the paint that I put down before. So I find the end of it, and then I just make these light little strokes. Now at the beginning of it, you're gonna have too much paint on your brush, because what you want is just a light little stroke. So you're pushing down and then you're pulling back up off the brush. Now when I first started painting, something like this would have given me nightmares because it would have been impossible to be able to feel it. But I've been painting long enough now, for years and hours a day, where I know that if I make a stroke and I pull away from it, it's going to give it a wispy effect, because I can go back when it's dry and feel it. I can feel how the paint is thick and then it thins down. And then I can also hear what people say when they describe it and go like, oh, that's a wispy sort of frond. But the nice thing about it is that these fronds, when they're growing, they're beautiful and they're wonderful. They're chaotic. The wind is going to be whipping through and it's going to give them a funny sort of effect. So you don't want it to be perfect. If you make it perfect, if you make them all the same size, the same length, it's not going to work. I mean, it's going to work, but it's going to, and actually that could be a really cool look. Like if you want it to look like that, it could be a really interesting design element, but it isn't going to look realistic. So if you're going for a more realistic frond, just have a little fun with it. Just let it go, because these trees do some really interesting things. And
that would be an interesting stylized technique to make them all exactly.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
It's almost like something you would see on a Bahama shirt. Like,
yeah.
What do you call those kind of shirts?
Bahama Joe.
Bahama Mama, Bahama.
That's a drink, I think.
Bermuda shirt. Yeah, that's it. Gosh, I really messed this all up by saying about Bahama, didn't I?
Bahama.
So I'm just making this little. So as you can see, it gives a whole different feeling to the painting by adding that in there. Because before the colors, it could have just been an abstract painting. By just adding these black lines and these little squiggles, suddenly you get a whole different kind of feel. So I'm gonna go down and see if it's dry. I'm just gonna put a little bit more, because one of the things about islands and stuff like this, and I talk about it like I've lived on an island, but I've thought about it a lot. But the wonderful thing about this, and I love the lake, and I love the beach, and I love these different areas and parts of California, where you have trees like this, and it's just really interesting. And the wonderful thing about it is that it's a little chaotic. You get this idea and you think of this pristine ocean, pristine water, and you get over close to it, and there's you got to be careful where you step sometimes. The rocks and the shells and the sticks and the way things are sticking up and going, it just makes it more interesting. So what I'm going to do over here is I have some dark areas that's kind of going in. So right now all this is basically the same color, but this is where our tinting will come in. So we'll tint this area down here to make it change. So I'm going to dry it real quick. perfection. And over on this side too, I'm not happy with it yet because I want to have more layers going in. But I'll do more tinting over there as well. How much time do we have? Like 15 minutes?
No, you have 10 minutes. Bam!
10 minutes? Oh my goodness!
So when you wait, so you're gonna put a tint on the like back end of that silhouette?
I'll very quickly put a tint. Yeah, if I can.
Cool.
The race is on. Dun, 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 dun. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to use, so most of this painting, 90% of this painting was done with that one brush. Then I brought in the thinner brush, which is this one, you know. And this other one that I showed you before, I'm going to use now.
What was the other one that you showed the other one again?
Oh, good. Let's see. I threw it in my rinse cup with a bunch of others, but I found it.
And that was to get the okay.
Oh yeah, for the paint frond. So
Cool.
especially this brush, it's smaller, and the number's probably on here, but
yeah.
what size it is, but I don't know. It's smaller than this. So I have a little dioxazine purple. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing this. This is a wash. It's a translucent paint. So the way that you can do this is either take some dioxazine purple in your acrylic paint and thin it down using the flow release or water, and or you can use like an artist ink or an acrylic watery paint or something like that. And which actually Andy, Jackie's brother, is an incredible artist and art teacher, and he was telling me about this product that I want to try, and I'm not sure what it is, but whenever it's like a watery acrylic sort of paint, but it makes the acrylic paint like watercolor, and I haven't tried it yet, but as soon as I get some from him or I find out exactly what it is, he was describing it to me the other day. I'm like, oh, that stuff sounds really cool, so I want to give it a try and see what it's like, because it's like this ink, but it's different somehow. So I don't really know. I can't really comment too much on it because I haven't played with it. So I'm not sure. Is this coming through on the?
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
great.
it is, and I love even where the sky where you feel like you made your mess up, and you have to go in and mask put on like a different color. It looks. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And like I said, this is a painting that anybody can do, and which I think makes it a really cool kind of painting because it's something that you can share, something you can just work on, have fun with, and it's a kind of painting too that you can do with your kids. And I'm not minimalizing this painting at all. And what I'm going to do, and I may not have time on this show, but I'll do it. So the next step after this is to put it in more of this sort of idea of the glazing, the washes on here, just to darken a little bit. So it's basically just this technique where you're going in, you're putting more and more of this sort of color on it. You want to deepen it, just really thin washes. And the effect of that is like, when you say, well, why couldn't you do that in just one coat? Well, the reason is because if you're doing an atmospheric effect, I think, or water, it just looks more realistic and it's more visually interesting if you do it in a lot of layers, because it just naturally recreates sort of the rippling of the water. And obviously water doesn't really look like this. I mean, you don't get water that's yellow, but the idea of the water, and that's one thing that I think is cool, because if we actually wanted to paint water the way it is, that would be interesting, but you can also take a camera and go just take a picture of that. But we want something that's a little more emotional.
But you can get so many accents of color on the water with the sunsets.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's true. That's so true.
They might not be as dramatic, but you're still pulling from that reality. So.
That's cool. That's interesting. And what colors do you remember from the West Indies when you lived there? Like, is there any particular scenes or colors or that you remember the most?
The scenes I loved were like women carrying things on their heads, And actually, I will catch myself doing that if I have a large, heavy thing to carry because for some reason it distributes the weight between like
Yeah.
Really?
your whole like. And so I'll have some like a package on my head going through the halls of the school, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Wow.
it's easier
Yeah.
on
That's
my
cool.
head than like trying to use my weak, wimpy arms. And but blues and yellows and reds. I mean, kind of what you're using. A lot of just Caribbean type colors. Even it was the French West Indies, but it was still very vibrant. And I remember the gray shacks people would live in because they were like corrugated metal, and they'd live in these. But one of my favorite memories, which is probably not very safe, but on during one of their celebrations, they line the streets with firecrackers, like completely line the streets,
Wow.
set them off at one end, and they just go off throughout the entire street.
Wow.
Yeah, not very safe for children. But it was explosive. Obviously, the sound was deafening, and you could feel the vibrations. And
Were they like black cats going down the line?
it was insane. No, they were like big,
Or like bottle
bigger.
rocket, all types of stuff?
No, like it was like the big red. They were big. It wasn't like any kind of like wimpy. You know, it was.
Wow.
They were heavy duty.
That's cool, man. That's a trip.
And then you have all this red like confetti stuff in the street the next morning, and but also like the little side store that you can go as a kid and just buy candy, and that your parents gave you money for lunch, and instead you're buying candy.
Yeah.
But but the colors were definitely lots of blues. The water, oh my gosh, you could see all the way through it. So
Man, that would be
it's
cool.
gorgeous.
Wow. That is cool. That sounds amazing.
So what what colors are you adding to the trees now?
Hey,
What are you
Jack.
doing?
Can you, well, I'm adding a little cad yellow, a light kind of sap green, and a darker green, and then of course, like what I like to do is add some crazy colors in too. So I'm gonna add some pinks and some crazy oranges, like they're more like a fluorescent kind of orange. But the idea, oh boy, I must have, I was not gonna put a lot, and I just made a huge glue with the paint. Bloop, I forgot, I put a thinning agent in that paint already. I'm sitting inside the bottle. It's like, I always forget that. I always use a ton of it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some of that on here. So it's a little of that pink and the orange, and the thing though is because I'm painting on black, it's going to darken as it dries. If you ever make a paint stroke on a white piece of canvas or a white thing, and then you make that same paint and another stroke on black, you can really see the difference. And some paint that you think is opaque might still have a little translucence to it. You don't really notice that unless you experiment a little bit and you try it on some different things. So right now these colors are going to look a little brighter. When they dry, they're going to darken, and that's a good time to go back in and put some more. Just because you can do some layers, and the nice thing about that is letting it dry and putting another layer is that it gives it more of a natural kind of feel. I mean, you don't normally find fluorescent pink and orange on a palm tree, but if it's applied in a natural sort of way, it doesn't seem too crazy usually. Which sounds crazy, but it's true. So if you keep I'm just following the same strokes that I had before, and just putting some highlights. The great thing about this is that, like I say, these trees are a little nutty. They're crazy. They're windblown. So as long as I'm following the same pattern that I had before, I think it's going to look okay. It's going to give it that sort of look where nature's run amok.
Well, babe, it's 9 o'clock.
Well, my word, they just seem to fly this time. Well,
So why don't you give a synopsis of like the final steps to this painting? Because it looks like you're practically done.
Yeah, I'm almost done. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to highlight. So this painting is probably 95% done. Now, one of the most important things when you're doing a painting is the very end of it is where, the highlights and the things like that is really what makes it pop. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more highlights to this. I'm going to darken this area over here. I'm going to add, some more washes like I have been doing the entire time. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to put in a sun. And I may shift that over here. Then I'm just going to put some white highlights in. I might put some white around where the water's coming up against the island. So basically just what I've been doing. Just do a
So
little
like
bit
a
more
little
of
bit
it.
of white caps? Is that what
Yeah, like a little bit, where it'll help break out where the island and the water hit.
Okay.
So I'll put a little bit of lighter there, and then so whenever I'm done, I'll post a picture, and you'll be able to see the changes. And looking from this to the finished painting, it's going to look very, very similar. There's going to be a couple of little subtle changes, but it's those little subtle changes I think that means a lot. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this. And like Brooke said before, if you have any tips or if you have any ideas, if you have any news stories, anything that's interesting, let us know.
Yeah.
That would be brilliant.
Email, Facebook, all that. And next week, any sort of suggestions of what can be painted next week?
Yeah, and I'm sorry I ignored them from last week, but I have them in my head. It's just I don't know. I wanted to do a sip and draw and all that. But, yeah.
We'll get to it. It's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. Not going anywhere.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.